Good evening. Welcome back to Hour 3 of Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. We're going to go into something a little different again here, Tim. It's a night of differences.
Whiplash night.
So we just had on with us Dr. Norm Sheely talking about the Committee of 300. I don't know, dude. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm gonna pick up these books that he's mentioned and start reading for myself. But like I said, again, it comes into the point of how is it that we can possibly, how can they control every facet of everything, yet there's leaks and TV specials and books and all this stuff coming out. And why would they allow something even 50 years later to come out about World War II and allow that to leak? Because then that would make you start to question everything that's going on at all times with our government, wouldn't it?
Or would it? Doctor,
too much misinformation, you think?
I'll disagree with Dr. Sheely in that with, shedding light on the darkness makes the darkness go away. I think, if anything, the more you bring it to light, the more absurd it seems that something like that is going on. And I think that's why it continues, if it does exist.
Which is interesting, as we'll segue cleanly here. As I mentioned, 2 years ago, I had an opportunity to go out to Gilliland's Ranch in Trout Lake, Washington. And you talk about experiencing things and seeing things, and, going out and experiencing something that you just have no experience, I don't even know how to put this. No idea how to deal with. And you go out, and I saw what I believed was UFOs and what I believe is might have been an alien creature flying in the skies over Trout Lake, Washington. And I spent the better part of the last 2 years trying to convince myself I didn't see what I saw. So it is like, it's the more absurd it is, the harder it is to believe, even though I've witnessed it for myself. Those type of things are interesting, which leads us into our next guest. Our guest is Ann Andrews, and alien abduction is the topic tonight in Indigo Children. Ann Andrews comes from a long line of abductees, although it wasn't until her son's experiences accelerated that she actually began having dreams and was given back long hidden memories, which enabled her to accept and cope with what was going on with her youngest son, Jason. What sets Jason apart from many other young children who, are now being born with these exceptional multidimensional abilities is that Jason is not only an abductee, but Anne claims that he himself is an extraterrestrial of origin, and he explains that technically we're all extraterrestrials because there's none of us amongst here that actually come from this planet, Tim, which explains a lot of the women I've dated.
Oh, yeah.
For certain. And after years of uncertainty, Jason has progressed from an initial standpoint of fear and terror to the point that in his teens, when he began accepting their teachings and to acknowledge who he is, one of the many indigo or star children here on Earth helping humanity to evolve to the next step, Jason says he came to our planet with two purposes. One, he wanted to experience what it was like to be human, and as a human, he wanted to have a better position to help people with the rest, and help their lives to improve. Walking Between Worlds, Belonging to None is a new book that raises the bar when it comes to alien abduction books. Like many, Walking offers a fascinating account of strange and unusual events. Yet it also takes us into new realms of possibilities where humanity takes its place as cosmic citizens, realizing our divine destiny, where the Earth becomes a station of light, a point of great radiance and vitality beaming out to the universe. So please welcome, for the first time to Darkness on the Edge of Town, Ann Andrews. Good evening, Ann.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening and spending some time. I know it's late there for you out in your neck of the woods. I'm interested in the story. I watched the DVD and the interviews and the information that they shared with you, and let's start with you. You say that you come from a long line of abductees. Does that mean that your family for generations has been dealing with extraterrestrials?
I believe now 100% that my father was, certainly, from things that he used to say to me when I was a child. And also, unfortunately, my father's now passed, but also what, when dealing with Jason's, what was happening with him, things that my mother sort of, also told me about, their relationship.
So do you believe yourself to be an alien-human hybrid as well?
Excuse me. I don't believe I am, but I do believe that I have been taken several times, for various things, as has my youngest son, Jason.
Now, when you were taken, what do you know, or what memories do you have now of your abduction scenario? Where, is it the classic, you're in your bed and suddenly you wake up strapped to a table in a bright light room with, 4 or 5 grays standing around you, poking and prodding you, or telepathically having conversation with you?
Right. The first memory that I ever had was when I was about 7 or 8. That was of being unable to sleep and asking to sleep in my mum's bed, which she agreed to because my father at that time used to work nights. And I remember just laying there next to her. She was asleep. The dog was asleep at the foot of the bed, but I just couldn't get to sleep at all. And then this horrible feeling of knowing that something else or someone else was in the room as well. It's the typical sort of, put your head under the covers scenario, then, it will hopefully go away, but it didn't. And then, of course, as I say, as a small child, I remember sort of peeping out over the top of the bed covers, and seeing like a tall hooded figure at the bottom of my mum's bed, and then it gradually sort of seemed to like float around the side of it. It didn't walk. There was no sort of, no movement of that type. It just seemed to sort of move, in one easy movement. And my last recollection was of seeing these like long fingers reaching up to the hood and begin to push the hood back. Now, as I say, that was the only thing that I ever remembered from my childhood. And it wasn't until, as I say, learning to cope with what was going on with my youngest son, that I was actually sort of given back, how can I put it, like memories of what actually happened at that time.
So what actually happened to you? I mean, were they experimenting on you? Was it just, interaction with you? What do they want with us?
Okay, as I say, the memories I was given back of that experience was that, as I say, the point that I always got to, which I always knew was real, I told my mother about it, and she said, it's a bad dream, which in hindsight was something that, I used to tell my own children many times. But then, as I say, from this experience, I saw these really large black eyes. I then had the sensation of being lifted. I was unable to move at that time, but I could watch everything. And I had the sensation of being lifted, and I realized that I was being lifted by some small beings, sort of small, the classic sort of E.T. greys, if you like, and also being moved through a window, through the glass. Which was a really sort of weird sensation.
So you actually passed through the glass? They didn't open the window. Your body just phased through the glass?
Exactly. Yes. I say that was a really, really weird thing because obviously even at that age as a child you're sort of conscious of what's happening. There's no way we can go any further. But then actually like being passed through a glass window. It's almost how can I put it? It's something similar to like trying to walk through treacle. It's that sort of sensation. Every part of your body sort of seems to slow down, and then being aware of being on the outside because then you can feel the wind and the cold in the air. And then just seeing lights in the distance in the sky and knowing that you're being taken to...
Now, do you remember feelings somewhere. Of fear? Were you afraid? Were you terrified? Or was it just a sense of relaxation and just acceptance?
No, I mean, I think at that time it was a mixed feeling. It was almost like being... I suppose afraid of what's going to happen. Also, wondering why, nobody is stopping this, nobody is helping you. And again, another mixed feeling of, well, why can't I move? Why can't I do anything to stop this? And then, of course, you get the sensation of being up high, and then, I'm even now I'm terrified of heights, which may have some bearing on that.
Right.
Also of being, sort of like praying that, that they don't let go. I think that for me that was the big issue. And then, as I said, being taken to towards the lights. My next memory was then of being placed on some sort of table, some sort of, some sort of bed, if you like, which was extremely hard, a very cold place. And I have no more sort of real, significant memories of that time. But let's say it, then when Jason started to sort of tell us things, that he was being taken. I mean, at first it was like, okay, all children have nightmares. That's obviously what it had to be. But it took us 12 years to actually, come to the conclusion that, there is a possibility that it might actually be happening.
How many different races have you come into contact with?
Personally, I've come into contact with, I believe four different types of beings.
And how do they communicate with you? Are they communicating telepathically, or are they communicating verbally?
No, usually, always telepathically. It's always, but people seem to, because a lot of the questions I'm asked, or one of the questions I'm asked is, how do you understand them? Do they speak English? But it's not words; it's pictures. And it's like, how can I put it? Thousands of pictures, in an instant. This is how it's communicated.
It's almost like they're flashing a silent movie through your head.
Yes, I suppose you could say that. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's take our first break here, Ann. We'll come back. We'll talk more with you about this. This is an interesting case. I'm definitely intrigued and want to learn more. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. Tonight we're talking about alien abductions, indigo children, and its impact on our lives. We'll be back with more. Good evening. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Hey, guys, here's some really cool news. Bruce Campbell, the actor, favorite cult actor from movies like Evil Dead 1 and 2, Army of Darkness, Bubba Hotep. You've seen him on TV shows like Xena, Warrior Princess. He's a great guy, and he's in a new show. What's it, on USA Network, is it, Tim?
Burn Notice, yep, on
Burn Notice,
USA.
On USA. He's been all the Spider-Man movies. Bruce Campbell is going to be here in Minneapolis at the Lagoon Theater December 5th through the 7th, premiering his brand new movie, which I just saw. I love it. It's a hilarious comedy horror movie. It's called My Name is Bruce. Got a chance to watch it and review it. I'd highly recommend coming out there, because not only do you get to meet Bruce, but you also get to be there for a Q&A right after the movie. And he's going to be doing two showings. I believe they're at 7 and 9:45 on December 5th, 6th, and 7th. So you'll have a chance to come in and meet with Bruce and hear him, and you could talk to him and ask any kind of questions you want to know. Tickets are on sale at the Lagoon Theater. You can go online, look up information on the landmark Lagoon Theater, or go out there and pre-order the tickets in advance and pick them up. I think the tickets are going to go really fast. Every time I've seen him at a personal book signing, he always does extremely well with a lot of people turning up, so you don't want to miss out on that. Tim and I, we're going to be out there on December 5th. We're going to meet with Bruce and be there for the 7 o'clock showing. I hope that you'll join us there. Right now, though, we're going to go back into our guest for this evening, and our guest is Ann Andrews. And Ann is comes from a long line of abductees. Her son was also an abductee and is also an indigo child. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we go in. And, excuse me, welcome back to the show. What could you tell us real quickly? I know I've gotten a couple questions here. What type of races have you met? Were there specific names given to them?
Not specific names, but the sort of beings that I've had contact with are like initially the small greys. There is a race of taller greys who seem to be like the guys in charge, if you like, of the smaller like drone type ones.
Okay.
I've also met with I think people call them the Nordics. These sort of tall, very fair, very humanoid type of people. Very handsome people
with the long blonde hair and the blue eyes.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yes,
And their skin is often detailed as very, very, very pale white. Is that about right?
No, I wouldn't have said so unless it's my memory. But
okay.
No, I remember them as being sort of fairly tanned, because again I had an experience of meeting them when I was quite small when I was with my dad. And my first thought was, they must be really lucky to, obviously being that tan, they must be really lucky because they can afford to go abroad for a holiday. Obviously, such is a child's way of thinking. So, yes, I do remember them as being very, very handsome people, but very, very tan skin, like golden skin.
Now, is there anything that would, if they were walking amongst us, that would make them stand out? I mean, six fingers, six toes, a mouth on the back of their head, or could they just be walking amongst us and we would have no idea?
No, they could easily blend in, very easily. I suppose they would be noticeable for being very striking people.
So if they're walking around in Hollywood, nobody would recognize them, though.
Well, yes, basically that would suit them well, actually.
But in England, they might stand out a little bit, being all bronzed and long blonde hair, blue eyes.
I would have thought so. Yes, over here. Yes.
Okay.
That's definitely.
Any other of the races? Did you meet any of the reptilians or?
Yes, I have, unfortunately. That was one, I've only ever met or seen them once, and that was an experience that literally had me sort of, packing a bag for a week and, not wanting to come back to the house. It was that horrendous. As I say, the one that I saw, which was at the top of our staircase at home here, must have been a good sort of 7-8 feet tall and, very, very well built. And it was just the eyes, more than anything. The eyes were very, how can I put it? Like a crocodile, so it has like the pupil is like the slit that goes downwards.
Right.
That was very, very noticeable. And also a very, very pungent smell that they seemed to permeate through the house. It was the sort of smell like mint. The plant mint.
Right.
But it wasn't. It was like a mint plant as it was pulled from the earth. It had that sort of earthy but like mint smell to it.
What was their interest in you?
Sorry?
What was their interest in you?
Well, I believe, or my son believes, that they actually came looking for him.
Okay.
As I say, at the time, I think Jason was about 16 years old, and when he sleeps, he has almost like he sleeps in a strange sort of atmosphere, which is an atmosphere that was first put around him by the grey ETs. It's a protection.
Okay.
And he tells me that because they couldn't get to him, they then basically came to me, to my room, more out of curiosity than anything else.
All right.
But as I say, it was just the sight of the one that I saw that was, I found absolutely abhorrent.
All right. So now you've got all this going, and you've mentioned that your son. Now let's break into this. What is an indigo child?
Okay. My understanding of an indigo child is a child that is probably born to abductees, whether the parents know it or not. Although most of them do realise that. It's a child that is basically extremely intelligent. That's not in the way of reading, writing, and arithmetic as we would deem intelligence. But very, very wise. They have a lot of wisdom. You're talking about a 3-year-old that can, as I say, just has this incredible wisdom. They know that they're not from here. They know that that their real place is out there. That they almost seem to have a longing for for being out there, out in space. They seem almost to feel uncomfortable in their bodies. It's like almost as if they're limited. Like they know that they're capable of so much more, but they're being restrained almost. It's also a fact that some of them are treated for ADHD, attention deficit disorder. Which is such a shame, really, because, as I say, they just need understanding. And I suppose, basically, there are many thousands of them accumulated on this planet at the moment, because they are here to help us, to teach us, to assist us, and basically, if that's the way that we decide to go, to help us, help us to look after this planet.
Well, let me ask you this: do you believe then is your son a genetic hybrid between alien and human race? And if so, did they mate with you, or was it just genetic splicing that they did to your embryo?
Right. No, I don't believe that at all. In fact, we've spoken to him, but actually Jason's spoken to us about how he came to be here. He said, as you said at the beginning, it was always his choice to be here. He wanted to experience being human from the very beginning, but he also explained to us that he is in fact a walk-in. For people that that don't understand the concept, he explained to us that it was always my destiny, if you like, to have a child that would be stillborn. And in fact, looking from my medical records, this was a high probability. He also explained that he was watching and waiting until the exact moment that my child was born, my son was born, and it was at that precise moment that energy or soul, if you like, left that body. So obviously it was lifeless. And he said at that moment he stepped in. He stepped in to use that body. If that makes any sense to you.
Right, yeah, we've definitely talked about walk-ins before on the show.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's interesting. We're gonna take our second break here. We'll be back with more Ann Andrews, and we'll be talking about her son, Jason, who is an indigo child. We'll learn a little bit more about what that means and what we can expect with the rise that seems to be taking place in the United States and around the world, I guess, with the appearance of these indigo children, and find out a little bit more about their personal stories. Stay tuned. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio, here every Saturday and Sunday nights, 9 to midnight. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Our guest this evening is Ann Andrews. The new book is called Walking Between Worlds, Belonging to None. And this is a story of Ann and her son Jason, who have been abductees for many years. And Jason himself is an indigo child. You believe a walk-in, you're mentioning, we said before the break. So your child was actually born stillborn, and then his soul, this alien life form soul, kind of took over the body and has become your son, in essence.
Yes, in essence, yes, that's completely true.
All right. And this book is available everywhere. People can get it on Amazon.com, any of the other major booksellers?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, yes.
Right. And can people check, do you have a website that they could go to as well to look at?
Yes, we do have a website. It's all the W's, Walking Between Worlds, all in small case letters, and then it's .co.uk.
So it's walkingbetweenworlds.co.uk.
It is, yes.
Okay. Let's go back to this. Now, has your son ever been measured? I mean, is he taking IQ tests? Is he off the charts with what his knowledge is, or how does that work? I mean, how do we separate the indigo from just really intelligent children?
Okay. Yes, as I said at the beginning, it took us, it's taken us 12 years to actually accept, that he is an abductee and is in fact an indigo child. During that time, we've taken him to various clinics and hospitals. He's been tested for sleep epilepsy, all sorts of things. We've also taken him to see, psychologists, psychiatrists, who have given him a clean bill of health and said he is not psychotic in any way, shape, or form. In other words, what he says and has always said is the truth. But he has done some public speaking, and it's just amazing the way he actually he actually touches people, I suppose. Just by some of the things that he says.
Well, let me ask you this: do you or Jason believe, are we in any danger of any of these alien races? And are they trying to influence us a little too much beyond where we need to be at this point?
Okay. I'll give you the answer that Jason has given me, which is that there is balance in everything. He says, as it is on this planet, there are good people, there are bad people. He said there always has to be a balance maintained. He said that's not to say, he said you can't say that one race of ET, they're all good, they're all looking out for us. He said, because he said it will be the same as, taking a group of people from Earth and saying, well, they're all good. He said that, there's always a balance. He also tells me that there are quite a few races who are observing this planet at the moment, for one reason or another. Some have their own agendas. He said, but on the whole, he said it's one of the golden rules, if you like, that they can observe, they can assist, but they can never, ever interfere. And he said this is the major rule that he lives by and the one that he will not break.
I mean, you understand from a layman's point, it's just so hard to wrap your head around something like this. To hear this and not just think, oh my gosh, this is maddening. This is just so out there and bizarre. How often do you find yourself just sitting back and thinking, okay, yeah, the doctors have okayed him, everything's okay, but do you ever get the sense from looking behind his eyes that maybe he honestly believes this to be true, but it's just a hyperactive imagination?
To be honest, as I say,
I know it took you 12 years to start to believe him on the whole deal, but I'm just wondering if by supporting it, can it just create a psychological belief? Just, there were a lot of people that believe that they're Napoleon, or they believe that they are the new Jesus Christ. And because they believe it and they walk in that, they can take truth, tests, polygraph tests, and pass them because that is their reality.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand. I understand totally what you're saying.
Right.
But as I say, it took us that long, from when he could first talk. He was telling us about, these little people that would come into his room and make him fly away with them, as he put it. And as I say, for 12 years we were saying, no, it's nightmares, it's imagination, because to us it had to be. Even though, it got to a point where, we would lock the house up at night and go to bed. We had 3 enormous dogs inside the house as well. And, we would get up in the night to use the bathroom and then check in on him, and he wouldn't be there. And then, of course, you just go absolutely frantic in searching the house. And he just was not in the house, that the house was still locked up from the inside. What do you do in those situations? It was just absolutely horrific for, Well,
I couldn't even begin to, I have 6 children. I can't believe or begin to even imagine the panic that would set in if I woke up and my children were gone. Are most of us having some kind of abductee deals in our life? Do people, a lot more people than they realize, have had alien encounters?
I believe so, yes. Some people have very clear memories, usually children. Because, we understand that children have, perhaps it's the innocence of childhood, that they have, very pure memories of things that happen to them. It's not tampered with by, obviously, sort of growing older. But there again, we do encounter a lot of adults who have things happen to them, and, they're going through absolute terror. But there again, we also encounter people who say to us, well, I think something's happened to me. I see this and it reminds me of something, and then I get flashbacks. And, so it can be in all sorts of ways, all sorts of forms.
What does Jason do for a living? He's an adult now. Does he carry on a regular job? And I don't know, Tim, could you imagine just going to work every day, working in a toll booth, knowing that you're an alien? That you've got all this knowledge. How does he hold down a regular job, Ann?
Jason is an absolute car fanatic. Anything to do with cars, he absolutely adores. He's one of his major job is as a mechanic. He's never happier than when he's got his head inside a car engine. He's very, very normal. He's married.
Now let's talk about that. I mean, I tell people I'm a single man. I tell people I'm a paranormal radio show host, and I get a raised eyebrow, and they look at me like I'm smoking marijuana. They're like, oh, yeah, oh, paranormal. Oh, good for you. Now, if I'm, oh, by the way, I'm a walk-in, and I believe I'm part alien, how the hell did he land a woman who didn't just think he was completely out of her street? Or is his wife also indigo or alien in origin?
No, I don't believe alien in origin, but she basically they met because he was trying to help her to cope with her own experiences. Mm-hmm. She's also an experiencer, as he prefers the term. She was having trouble sort of understanding what was happening to her, and also how to cope with it all. And as you so rightly say, who can you turn to? Even now, we all have to be so very careful, what we say and who we say it to, because obviously, some people will accept us for who we are, and others, just will not. But yes, basically, they eventually got together. It became a lot deeper than just just being friends.
Tim, I think that's what we need to do. Is we need to put together a abductee dating service. Tim,
I like it.
We put together a nice dating service so we can introduce people that have been abducted or believe they were abducted so they can meet each other, because otherwise, I got to guess that's going to be a pretty strange life. Does Jason have children himself yet?
Not yet, no, but they're hoping to. So.
They're hoping to? Okay.
Now,
does that worry him as a father that, I guess not, because he's come to terms with it, but, I would say as a father, I'd still be unnerved that then aliens are going to be abducting my children and testing and doing whatever they want to do with them.
No, it doesn't worry him in the slightest, and that is because when it was all happening with our son, it was obviously our social upbringing said to us, well, this doesn't happen. This isn't normal. This shouldn't be happening. Therefore, it's something to fear. It's something to be terrified of. And such was the case with us. We knew that, we believed that this was something that was bad. It was something to fear. So, of course, we instilled our fears into our son. And it wasn't until, he started to listen and maybe to understand, what was happening to him, and, got to obviously... It's like, how can I put it? He's at a point in his life now where he doesn't fear them at all. He sees them as equals, and they treat him as an equal. So for him, when he has his own children, he's pretty certain that that they will be taken from time to time. But he has a different view of it, so he will not have the fear. So if he doesn't instill the fear in them,
right,
then.
There should be no fear if you don't tell them to be afraid, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about the book Walking Between Worlds, Belonging to None by Ann Andrews. We'll be back with more right after this. Good evening. Welcome back to our last segment here tonight on Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Make sure to check back with us tomorrow. We have a brand new show. We're going to be joined by Rochelle Sparrow. She is a psychic medium and a trance medium as well. And we've got some amazing stuff that we're going to be talking about. I hope that you'll join us and be a part of tomorrow night's show. Again, 9 p.m. Central to midnight. We'll be right here. Our guest this evening is talking about the book Walking Between Worlds, Belonging to None by Ann Andrews. Talking about her own life as an abductee and her son Jason, who is an indigo child. With the information that Jason has been given from the alien race, what is his role now? What is he doing with this information and the abilities?
Right. His abilities... He is a very good healer, which is something that he gives freely. He also is able to travel astrally and also to astrally project himself, which is, he tells us, it's his work that he does at night when he's sleeping. Again, he concentrates on healing. I say he has a lot of knowledge, about, as I said, he has a lot of wisdom, as do all the indigos. But he also tells us that, it's time that we started to get back our spirituality. That's not in a religious sense at all. But he means that, we need to obviously realize that we are much, much more than than we believe we are. We're not just independent people. We are all part of a higher consciousness, a bigger consciousness, if you like. And he said, in order for this planet to progress and for the human race to progress, he says we all need to get back that we once had, which is our connection to spirituality, a higher consciousness.
So it's getting back to God, do you believe, or just getting back to any kind of higher level, just raising our vibrational levels?
Well, he explains it that in order to raise our vibrational level, as independent people, we need to start understanding that, that everything, absolutely everything, is energy. Even the planet is energy. That the planet vibrates. The same as we do. We all vibrate on a certain frequency. But he says that, many thousands of years ago, he said that, the human race did have all this. We had this spiritual connection. We all realized and we knew and accepted that we were part of each other, and part of a bigger consciousness, a higher consciousness. He doesn't use the term God, but because his understanding of, shall I say, he calls it the One, or the Source. He said everything, absolutely everything, goes back to the Source, goes back to the beginning. He says unless we can realize and understand, that we are all part of each other, mm-hmm. And start to get back that spiritual way that we all once had, of understanding, being one with nature, being sure. I suppose better than we are, not so much materialistic, and just getting back to what we once had and what we need to be again.
Do you believe that you're being watched, or your family's being watched by certain governments or military bodies as well?
Yes, I do, without doubt.
For what reason? What do you think that they're trying to glean from you?
I don't think they're trying to necessarily get anything from us, but I do believe that perhaps, and I don't believe that we're the only ones, but I do believe that perhaps certain government sections, if you like, do keep an eye on abductees or experiencers, because they want information. To them it's like I believe that they believe that maybe the ETs should be conversing with, like, their top brains and this sort of thing, so why ordinary people? So I think to them it's a case of, let's keep an eye on them and see, try and find out what they know perhaps, or, what's going on, and obviously what we're saying.
What advice do you have for parents that might have an indigo child, and how can they tell if it's indigo or just a child that's, special needs?
Okay. The best advice that I could ever give is to listen. Just listen to them. Obviously let them know that they're loved. Which goes without saying for any parent. And again, for any parent, whose child is telling them that, these small beings are taking them away, because it does happen. I'm not saying that every child that, comes running into their parents at night isn't having a nightmare. Of course nightmares happen. But I suppose, as I said, my strongest advice will be to listen. Just hug them, cuddle them, tell them you love them, and listen to them. And don't just dismiss everything they say. Because, as I said, it took me 12 years to get to the point of saying, well, it's not that I believe it, but I believe that he believes it. And the day that we decided to change, and like actually be there for him in that respect, was the day that everything changed for Jason.
All right, so your best advice is just listen to them, give them... See, again, that's where I have 6 kids. I've got kids with a lot of really overactive imaginations, and it's hard to separate what's a truly vivid imagination, which you also want to encourage, and just a kid being a goofy kid.
Of course. Oh, yes, we do realise that, but also you understand that, well, the same as a child having nightmares, it's absolutely terrifying for them. So, again, if your child is saying that, these abductions, these experiences are happening to them, then, I'm not saying that it's the truth. Maybe it is happening, or maybe it is just nightmares. But whatever it is, don't just dismiss them lightly or out of hand. Just listen, and then, just help them, basically, and don't ever say, well, it's not real, it's not happening. Just even if you think it's just words, it just makes so much difference.
Well, I appreciate the time you spent with us this evening. Again, the name of the book is Walking Between Worlds Belonging to None. The author's name is Anne Andrews, and it's spelled A-N-N-E, and then last name A-N-D-R-E-W-S. And would it be possible in the future to have Jason join us on the show and allow call-ins for people that would like advice and thoughts, and maybe other people that are dealing with indigo children to speak with Jason? Is he open for that?
I will certainly ask him. Yes, of course.
That'd be great, because this would be a great format if he feels his job is to help people and to allay these fears. We'd love to give him the opportunity to do so in this format and let people ask him directly what they want to know and see if he can help them. I'm sure, we run into a lot of people that are in the same situation that feel that their children are special beyond normal, and they don't know where to turn, and would love to talk with other people in your same position and get that direction and help. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are fearful of aliens and alien races taking over and would love to talk with somebody who has more of an insight on this as well.
Yes, of course. Anything we could do.
Great. And again, give the website where people can visit you.
Okay, it's all the W's, walkingbetweenworlds.co.uk.
Anne, thank you so much for spending time with us here this evening. We'll look forward to talking to you and Jason again in the future, okay?
Okay, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for tuning in and spending your evening here with us on The Darkness on the Edge of Town on 100.3 K-Talk. We're going to be back tomorrow night with a brand new show. We have psychic, medium, and trance channeler Rochelle Sparrow, who's going to join us. And Rochelle has some amazing abilities. You can check out her website, RochellSparrow.com, RochelleSparrow.com. And I think, Tim, we're going to even open it up and let her do a little reading for us tomorrow night.
Sounds like a plan.
Make a part of it. And she's also going to try to channel JFK for us. It's one of the people that she has the ability to communicate with, and this with the anniversary tonight of John F. Kennedy's assassination. We're going to ask the important questions. Was he assassinated? And what happened to Marilyn Monroe? Tune in tomorrow to find